Well, hello and welcome to this week's Midweek Mashup. I'm sitting down today with Pastor Becca,
Hey.
who gave our message on Sunday about serving each other.
Yep.
Not like tennis, but like...
Good, because I'm not good at tennis.
I'm a ping pong person, personally.
I'm not good at regular tennis, table tennis, badminton, any of them.
Pickleball?
Nope. Actually, I've never played pickleball. I hear it's really good, though.
Yeah, I think we have a court now here in Fremont. But anyway, we talked about serving each other on Sunday. Can you tell us a little bit about what you talked about?
Yeah. So I think for me, I've heard a lot of messages in my lifetime about service and like, go do this, go do that, go do this, go do that. And it felt very much like earn your way into heaven by doing all of these things. And so I felt like it was really important for me in this message to kind of talk about how to make service like a lifelong healthy practice and not just do the things to do the things. So I talked a lot about like Sabbathing and taking care of yourself to pour out from a full cup. So that was actually one of the main points of the message. Even though we were talking about service, it sounds kind of counterintuitive, but in order to serve with any kind of longevity or consistency, you also have to be filled up and be in tune with what the Holy Spirit's doing, and in connection with God. So I feel like that's how you do that, is by Sabbathing well. And then I talked about the community piece, which is obviously probably one of the other most important pieces of serving, is knowing the needs of the community around you and being relational within the community, because there's like a reciprocity that comes from that, and a curiosity when we're curious about others and we allow others to be curious about us. There's this holistic community piece that comes into play. We get to know the needs of our community. We get to meet those needs. And then the last and final piece was serving with your giftings. I don't know if you can link the QR code that I had in my message.
I can.
That would be awesome, because if you don't know what your spiritual God-given gifts are, I highly recommend taking this quiz. It's super informative. It talks about the different gifts, and then it'll talk about your results and really breaks it down. And then if you just want to know how to get involved, like obviously reach out, read that information. But I really think that serving the way God has created you to serve is the most fulfilling thing that you can do. So I want people to serve fulfilled, or be fulfilled. I want people to serve communally and reciprocally, and then I also want people to serve from a full cup, because we can't do anything well if we're depleted all the time. So that was kind of the whole premise of the message. Any other specific questions?
Yeah, no, that was really good. You used a key term, kind of a churchy word, Sabbath. That one kind of gets thrown around sometimes, like, oh, it's my Sabbath. I'm sorry, I can't do that. What does that mean?
Okay, good question. So Sabbath is really just a day of rest. It could think of it as your day off from work, right? Some people get one a week, some people get two a week, some people get none a week. But the practice of Sabbath is taking at least one day a week to really like recharge, rest, cease, or to stop, which is the literal translation from the word Shabbat, which is where we get the Hebrew, or where we get the word Sabbath from the Hebrew word Shabbat. So it's really just about stopping, slowing down, listening to God, praying, resting, getting that good cup of coffee, right, like I said in my message, or having dessert before dinner, making dinner for the people you love to eat with. Just something where it's really just filling your cup. So I don't know what that is for you. Like, I love to be with the people I love and eat with them, so I might cook a meal and spend my Sabbath with them. I also love to go on walks or hikes, so I might go on a hike and just really talk with God. Like, it's really just reconnecting with God and reconnecting with that like fulfilling community or filling community. I'm
an introvert, and so I like to be alone for my Sabbath. Just like, everyone leave me alone, please. I'm going to listen to a podcast or go to Target or something.
Exactly.
Thanks for clarifying that. And then the other thing I wanted to ask about was spiritual gifts. That's also sometimes an ambiguous thing. Some people categorize some things as spiritual gifts and not other things. And what is a spiritual gift? And why did you choose this specific assessment?
So spiritual gifts are God-given gifts, or the God-given talents that we have, or things that fit within our personalities that we're really good at. So my three spiritual gifts were shepherding, administration, and exhortation, which means shepherding is kind of a fancy word for like pastoral care, like very empathetic to the community, and just wants to care for the people around them. And then exhortation is an encourager, someone that encourages you to reach your potential, someone that encourages you to take care of yourself, right? Something along those lines. And then administration is a little straightforward. I love lists. I love spreadsheets. I love task-oriented things. It's just somebody who's kind of organized. So those would be like my 3 spiritual gifts. There's mercy showing, giving. There's so many different gifts, evangelism. But the reason I chose this particular test is I looked through many different ones, and I felt like this one had a really good way of breaking down each gift, and I thought it was really pretty accurate in its description of all the different gifts. It's a little lengthy. It was like 108 questions. But I really do think it was relatively accurate in both results and also in just its descriptions and thorough. So that's why I chose that one. It's from Steeple-Church. So well done, guys.
Yeah, I took it. It was a cool test. I think my top 3 were teaching, shepherding, and exhortation.
Yeah.
So pretty close. I think administration was like 4 or 5 for me.
Because you're pretty organized.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
It's really cool, really accurate, and I liked that it defined some of those really churchy terms, because it's like exhortation. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Prophecy.
Loaded.
Yeah, and so it really demystified it a little bit, and it was really good. So it took me maybe 10 minutes, I think, to do it. Yeah. And so it's like a scale of 1 to 5. How do you relate with this sort of thing? And so it was really good. I like it.
There was a couple questions where I'm like, and it's like, just do your best guess. Like, obviously, it's just you know yourself to the best of your ability, so just do your best. I also love at the very end when you scroll all the way to the bottom, it's like, here's what you can try and do with those gifts, and gives you some recommendations, which I loved, because sometimes you're like, okay, I have a gift of administration. What do I make lists for people? What do I do with that? So it gives some really cool suggestions. Obviously, there's way more suggestions out there. It's not an exhaustive list, but it was helpful. If I could have added something, okay, at the very end of my message, I was gonna give some more examples of the different things, and I forgot to write them into my message, and I was like, I didn't forget. I was like, I'll just come up with them on the spot, right? Yeah. Which is never a good idea for me, because I go blank. And so I was up there, and I think I listed off 1 or 2, and then I was like, anyways, because I literally couldn't think of anything else. So next time I'm going to actually write some examples out at the very end and be like, here's what you can do with a couple of these gifts, because I totally blanked and thought I was going to be able to do it, and I totally couldn't. So yeah, anyway.
Yeah, I did the same thing in a message where I was just like, I'm going to come up with stuff on the fly. Different groups you get involved in, different hobbies, like gardening, and why am I only thinking about gardening? Exactly. It's kind of intimidating to be up there.
I was like, oh my gosh, it is a blank whiteboard in my head right now. There was no thoughts. I was like, oh no. So, but it was fine.
Yeah, what would be some examples of things that people could serve in?
I'm going to pick some examples outside of the church, because I think a lot of times we focus on what we can do inside the church, and I think it's really important of things we can do for the community out of the church, right? That's what our spiritual gifts are for. And so I'm thinking of the community that I live in, my neighborhood, or the schools in the area, or people that I'm close to, right? So in my neighborhood, we have a lot of, I would say, more middle-aged people, and so something that I referenced in my message was that our neighbors brought some groceries over, and his wife, the wife of this couple, she works at a food bank, and so sometimes they get food and they distribute it, and I've decided that I'm going to use that food to re-bless the community. So I made a big pot of chicken noodle soup one night and some dessert and passed that out to the community. There was a bunch of oranges. I brought them for my daughter's softball game for all of her friends, So it's just stuff like that, where I think looking around at what is being done and how can I get involved? How can I make an even bigger impact? What can I add to enhance, right? Yeah. So that's just something I'm doing. The other thing is, if you have neighbors that have kids, go to their sporting events. That's one really cool way to do it. Support them, right? Or go to your local library and, offer to read to some people, go to your local old folks home and read to them or sing to them. There's so many opportunities around us where we can get involved. That's what I love about Ruth is she works with Compassion Network, and if you ever need a place to start, Compassion Network is definitely the place to go. They always have a list of ways you can serve the community, and Ruth is a wonderful liaison, making sure that the needs are being met. So just point them to the right people, and then they can see what service opportunities are available to them.
Yeah.
And just within their neighborhood, have conversations.
Thank you so much for sitting down and sharing a little more. I'll actually add a link to Compassion Network in the description below.
They're awesome.
And I will add a banner up here for if you want to hear more from Pastor Becca on the topic of serving Sabbath and being served. So
thanks.
Yeah,
thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here, and we will see you in the next Midweek Mashup.
Bye.